Dagsnytt klokken 12.
Ja. Huff og huff. Er det ingen grunn til å ikke bare fortsette med å være deprimerte? I går så var det jo en sånn hull i værdepresjonene noen timer. Det var faktisk ganske fint når vi satt ut på Balthazar. Men det var en dag det. Hva med i dag? Hvorfor er det ikke sol og fint vær i dag? Bløt asfalt. Artikkelen 13. Bare masse med ting vi ikke liker. Jeg både håper og tror det er bedre i torre været. Der er det jo nordmenn som sier at det er jo ikke vits å være i Spania. San Miguel ligger jo rett i nærheten, så jeg tror at vi får Ove til å vise oss det. Over til Ove.
God morgen her der fra San Miguel. Ja, denne søndagsmorgen her så ser det litt merkelig ut. Det er fare for et par dråper med vann kommer ned på formiddagen. Men ellers utover dagen så blir det jo finere og finere, og det vil være sol. 19 grader. Nattemperaturen er nede på 9 grader nå. Og vinden kan ligge rundt 5-6 minutter i sekund. Men som sagt, det ser ut til å bli en bra dag. Eneste del kan komme et par dråper nå i formiddagstimene. Så ha en riktig god dag alle sammen.
Ja, det så jo ut som det var blitt litt bedre der i Torrevieja-området. Vi får håpe at de nordmennene blir fornøyd i dag da. Vi blir som sagt ikke noe spesielt fornøyde her. I Øygarden. Jeg har litt problemer med det halva språket der. Sånn. Ja. Der er det i hvert fall soloppgang. Men det er ingen aktivitet. Du vet, det er jo søndag, så du må nok gå i kirka før de kan begynne å tenke på å heve Helge Engstad. De kan jo gå sammen i bønn og vi ber om at han bare blir hevet. Det er ikke sånn at tro kan flytte fjell, og da må i hvert fall tro kunne flytte sunkne sånne fregatter. Det er mye lettere å flytte en fregatt enn å flytte et fjell. Det så jo tilsynelatende fint ut der i Stavanger, men det så veldig kaldt ut også. Jeg må si det. Veldig kaldt. Så det er ingen grunn til å slutte å være værdeprimerte. Det er faktisk ingen grunn til å slutte å være deprimerte i det hele tatt. Artikkel 13 kom og drep oss. Hvorfor er det ingen aviser, radioer, TV-stasjoner, ingen som snakker om artikkel 13? Det vil jo forandre livene til alle oss. Ja, han kommer litt om Radio Caroline, men først en god porsjon om artikkel 13.
When it comes to laws in recent history that have threatened to cause serious damage to creators and consumers everywhere, no law has ever come close to Article 13. Now, normally on this channel you will see me talk about movies where I break down the craft of writing and creating great film, but today I want to devote this month's video to an incredibly serious topic. One that is threatening to cause a major disruption to the way that everybody, including you, me, and everyone you know, creates and consumes content on the internet. Even if you are a creator or consumer based in the USA, this EU law, if passed, will cause a major disruption to the way that you use YouTube, Facebook, and other social media sites. To put it bluntly, if this new law, Article 13, gets implemented, there is a very real chance most content creators you know who are based in the EU will be banned from YouTube. And I wish what I just said was a lie. I wish that statement was just me exaggerating the facts to try and fearmonger, but unfortunately it wasn't. If Article 13 becomes law, hundreds of thousands of content creators, from those with 100 subscribers to those with 1 million subscribers, all across YouTube are under a serious threat of being terminated, including me. Now, 2 very quick notes before we begin. Firstly, you'll be seeing some video game footage in this video, instead of the usual movie footage. The reason why is I can appreciate the irony of making a video criticising a copyright law whilst unfairly using copyrighted content. And secondly, I want you to know that I am a biased party. If Article 13 passes, there is a very real chance that my channel, The Closer Look, where I have built my income and career around it, will be terminated, or at the very least be banned from being seen inside of Europe. The latter would seriously damage my career, and the former would leave me without any income and would essentially end my career. Now, first off, what is Article 13? Here's a simplified summary. The EU is currently passing a new bill titled the Directive of the European Parliament and of the Council on Copyright in the Digital Single Market. This directive has the aim of bringing current copyright laws up to date with the digital age inside the EU. There are many parts to this directive, but today we'll be focusing on just one part, called Article 13. Now, there are several reasons why this law is being passed, one of which is because of the music industry. On YouTube, you can find almost every song for free, and while you do watch ads to see those videos, the amount of money that brings the artist is sometimes 20 times less than what they would otherwise receive through platforms like Spotify. To put it bluntly, copyright holders, specifically those in the music industry, want more money. That is not the only, but it is one of the chief reasons this article is going through. Now, that's the boring part over, so let's get down to instead the frankly terrifying part. But to prove my point, here is a clip of Jack Nicholson.
You can't handle the truth!
Now, because I have used that 2-second clip, if in the future Article 13 gets pushed through, my channel will be banned inside the EU for no other reason than just that 2-second clip, even though it falls under 7 seconds, which means it's de minimis and very arguably falls under fair use. Now, you may ask why? Wouldn't you get a copyright strike first, right? That's how the system works. You break copyright on YouTube, that individual video gets blocked, and then you get a warning. If that happens 3 times in the space of 3 months, your channel gets terminated. Well, under Article 13, the 3-stage copyright strike system won't exist anymore. Instead, it will be the 1 copyright strike system, where after 1 offence, any channel will be blocked inside the EU. Why? Because under Article 13, they are making one massive change. This change is so fundamental, means so much for the future of all social media, that its importance cannot be overstated. The way YouTube has always been is if a user, let's call him Joe Blogs, uploads a copyrighted clip, the copyright holder can decide what to do next, and Joe Blogs, the uploader, will be punished. Joe is the one who is held accountable for his actions. Except now the EU is changing it so that if Joe uploads a video to YouTube that is copyrighted, the EU won't hold Joe accountable. Instead, they will go straight to YouTube and hold the platform accountable. Now, I appreciate simply saying it like that doesn't seem like so much of a change, it seems like quite a small one. However, once this law is implemented, it will lead down a logical chain of events that will end up causing a jaw-dropping amount of collateral damage to all content creators on YouTube, even the ones who use no copyrighted content whatsoever. YouTube has over 400 hours of video uploaded per minute, and that number is increasing every other month. Even if you had a super advanced algorithm, one that is twice as advanced as the one YouTube currently has, there is no way you could scan all 400 plus hours per minute and register every single copyrighted clip. This means that many copyrighted images, music tracks, and movie clips will slip through the net, and for every single copyright infringement on the site, YouTube is vulnerable to a lawsuit. There are a great number of ways a creator can obscure an audio track or a video clip or an image so it never gets detected by the algorithm. Here is a very quick example. Okay, so let's say this image is copyrighted. Well, how about we delete the background for it, make it back to front, so we invert it, change the colors, draw some spectacles on him, and then make it really small and put it in the corner. There is no algorithm on Earth that could reliably pick such an image as this up. Whenever you use copyrighted music and there is another sound on top of that, for example, a commentary of someone talking, the algorithm almost never picks that up either. Also, there are a huge number of cases where the copyright system gets it wrong and blocks videos that have used nothing copyrighted. There is one example where a guy made a 10-hour white noise track, where there was nothing but a static white noise he made in a program, and it got 5 separate copyright claims, all of which claiming they were the ones who made the track. Now, here is the thing. It is impossible for YouTube to accurately police that 400 plus hours uploaded per minute for copyright infringement. So what does YouTube do? The only thing they can do: stop people uploading videos and having videos shown inside of the EU entirely. Because if they don't, they are left vulnerable to being sued into oblivion for hundreds of thousands of separate breaches of copyright. And the same applies to other platforms like Facebook, Instagram, you name it. This means that for a YouTube video to be shown inside the EU, it simply will have to be manually reviewed. As a consequence, creators who cover timely matters such as news coverage will be affected horribly. News channels, by their very nature, need to be able to upload videos and have that video available within the day of the event. Now every video needs to go through manual review. That means news videos will come out days, if not weeks after the event, if even at all, which means the public will be less informed about important news updates on natural disasters and crime, and everything else will be heard less. This will cause the general public to be less informed. Channels like Philip DeFranco, Drama Alert, The Young Turks, and anyone who distributes news on YouTube will be greatly damaged by this law. This also has a terrible side effect for content creators who rely on fair use, namely the entire video essay community. Now, I am not a lawyer, so some things in Article 13 I simply did not understand the wording of, but from what I can tell, in the EU there will now only be 2 factors that determine fair use. Number 1, is it educational and non-profit? Now, what I do here on The Closer Look is educational, where I break down film to help aspiring writers and directors to become better at their craft. However, because I'm independent and I have no employer to pay me a salary, I have built my livelihood and career around this channel, and have had no choice but to monetize it. And this all means that under Article 13, even though The Closer Look is educational, it is still breaching fair use law and will be banned inside the EU, even though it is incredibly transformative. And also, the other factor is if it is a general review. However, there seems to be a rather curious caveat for that, where the right to use copyrighted material for the purposes of review only applies to publishers of press publications. Now, this is fascinating, because from the looks of things, if The Guardian wants to make a video review and use copyrighted clips, that is totally fine and it is fair use. But if the average Joe wants to become a movie critic and uploads the exact same video just as an independent creator and not a journalist, that is not fair use, and he will be banned for it. Which means if any independent movie reviewer you know on YouTube uses copyrighted clips, they will be banned in Europe, unless they are part of a newspaper or other press company. Otherwise, it is fair use and it's totally fine. The sad truth is that even if I stopped monetizing this channel and made it blatantly fair use under EU law, that won't matter anyway, and this channel will still be banned in the EU because fair use is subjective. In the USA, for example, fair use is determined by a number of variables. Is it for profit? Is it educational? Is it transformative? Is it reducing the income of the copyright owner? And even if a video meets every single one of those criteria, it is still not legally fair use because it can only be officially determined in a court of law, only after a lengthy, expensive, year-long trial, and only on an individual video basis. Each and every video is its own entirely separate court case for fair use, and YouTube would be juggling tens of thousands of such court cases all at the same time, where in the past the uploader, the creator, would be punished, would be the defendant. Now the platform is the defendant. YouTube is the one who gets sued when Joe Blogs uploads a copyrighted movie clip. YouTube is the one who gets sued when a copyright holder thinks that Nerdwriter's critical review of a film doesn't classify as fair use. This means that every single fair use clip on YouTube is a copyright lawsuit time bomb, which if it goes off where the copyright holder believes in their opinion it isn't fair use, which happens all the time, even when the fair use is blatant. Trust me, I have seen the other side of that many times. So if the holder, in their opinion, doesn't think it is fair use, then YouTube is the one who has to go to court to prove them wrong. This is an aspect of Article 13 it is clear as day the lawmakers have neglected, because now the platform is held accountable for the actions of its users. You will see a blanket, total ban on all copyrighted content inside the EU, even if it is for non-profit educational purposes, and it is a textbook example of fair use. This will undoubtedly lead to the total destruction of the Video Essay community on YouTube, not to mention many other communities like the YTP and meme community. At the very least inside the EU, at the very most on a global scale. By implementing Article 13, there is a very real chance the EU will kill the very concept of fair use on the internet, whether that be their intention or not. Now, what I do on this channel is strictly for education, but a lot of other video essayists out there, what they're doing is not strictly educational. For example, Nerdwriter, who by the way is a fantastic essayist. He made a video on why the film The Florida Project should have been nominated for an Oscar.
If the Oscars won't highlight The Florida Project, then I'm happy to, because it's without a doubt one of the best films of 2017. And watching it, for me, was one of those transporting experiences that I only get a few times a year.
Now, it's a very well-made video essay, and it's also not educational, and it's not technically a review, it is simply an argument. It is an opinion piece on why he thinks the mainstream awards should have given this movie, The Florida Project, more respect. Now, under US copyright law, this video is blatantly fair use, but under Article 13, it most certainly is not. And here's the thing, this video is benefiting Evan, the creator, as he is making a living from it. It is benefiting the people who made the film, as they're getting a ton of exposure, and no doubt this video is single-handedly responsible for many sales, as people have bought or rented this film to see it. And also it benefits the average Joe, as they get to watch a kick-ass, well-made analytical video, and also get a recommendation for a great movie they need to watch. This video, as well as the whole of Nerdwriter's channel, is benefiting all parties. Evan is doing a fantastic job at increasing film literacy and increasing interest in some really well-made movies out there. Whether the lawmakers intend it or not, Article 13 in its current state will undoubtedly lead to this video and the whole of Nerdwriter's channel being banned in the EU. And then that begs the question, what is the reason? Why do the politicians want Nerdwriter to be banned in the EU? And the answer, they don't. Because I don't think this ramification of Article 13 has even been considered by anyone who's pushed this law forwards. I mean, if you were a lawmaker and you implemented a law saying anyone who owns a knife will be sent to jail, sure, you'll send to jail the criminals, but you'll also send to jail butchers and carpet layers and people who live in the wilderness who simply need to use those knives as tools to survive. If you implemented such a law, you would be causing so much damage to so many people who otherwise were actually actually benefiting society. And as a result, we would stop having butchers. If you want a new carpet, well, tough luck, because now Stanley knives are illegal to own. Now, that metaphor is actually really applicable to Article 13, because as a result of this law, a serious number of people, including myself, people who are providing a valuable service to many people out there in such a way it actually benefits copyright holders, will be taken down. But okay, on the screen now you will see a list of channels, many of whom are part of the video essay community, but all of which use copyrighted content as a fundamental and integral part of their own content. Everyone you see here, if Article 13 passes, at the very least will be banned inside of Europe, and at the very most be terminated entirely. The truly ironic thing is Article 13 is made to protect copyright holders, but by dismantling and destroying the film community on YouTube, not only will it stop the next generation of Christopher Nolans and Quentin Tarantinos from learning about their craft, but it will also decrease the number of people who are passionate about film. Article 13 will destroy the internet film community in Europe, and as a result will directly damage interest in movie culture inside of Europe, and as a direct result of that, will damage the European film industry. And Article 13 will undoubtedly be a detriment to many of the very copyright holders whom this article is trying to protect. Almost always, when a video essayist covers a film, that directly results in an increased interest in that film, unless that movie just happens to be called The Last Jedi, in which case we tend to be, well, quite harsh. But I have lost count in the amount of times I have mentioned a movie in my videos, provided a critical analysis of why it is such a good movie, and a bunch of my viewers go over and buy the film so they can watch it. And then you have to ask, if Article 13 does that, where it will not only cause unprecedented damage to established and thriving communities out there, not only potentially end the careers of thousands of people who are making a living from their passion, including me, but on top of that, it will make many copyright holders worse off, why even pass it at all? And you may ask, why am I saying thousands of creators' careers are ending? Don't you mean dozens? Unfortunately, that number was not an exaggeration. Going back to it, because YouTube cannot police the 400 plus hours uploaded every minute, not to mention the billions of videos already on the site, YouTube will have no choice but to assume everyone is guilty until proven innocent. And even if you upload something as benign as a vlog in your room, that will be blocked in the EU anyway, because there is a chance it has copyrighted content in it, which means there is a chance YouTube might get sued. So what would that look like? What is the worst case scenario? Unfortunately, at this stage, the worst case scenario also looks like the most likely one. The worst case scenario is every single smaller content creator on YouTube will be banned from uploading if they live inside the EU, as well as all imported videos from outside the EU being blocked inside of Europe too. The EU will become this dead zone for content creation, where only the already established larger name channels like Rooster Teeth and Casey Neistat, and those who already have a massive following, will be allowed to have their content shown. The reason why is all content will need to be manually reviewed, and anyone who uploads copyrighted clips, even if said clips are textbook fair use, YouTube couldn't risk the lawsuit, so said creators will be assumed guilty and blocked with no exceptions. As a result, you will see YouTube stop being a site where innovation is encouraged, and anyone can do it, to being this stagnant library of videos that is less than 1% of the size it once was, where the entire next generation of social media influencers all across the EU will never come to be, because everyone with less than 100k subs will be banned, even if they upload something as innocent as a comedy short. Under Article 13, where once there were no gatekeepers, which is one of the reasons social media is so goddamn great, and after you would need to have the blessing of an established creator to present your content on their channel, whether that blessing comes from being under their employ or paying them a fee. Simply put, if Article 13 passes, it will kill tens of thousands of European creators' careers before they could even start. And for many non-European creators in the USA, for example, it could still end their careers, as they would lose all EU viewership, which might be where they get the bulk of their views. This will all, most likely, result in the complete destruction of smaller, niche communities on the platform inside of Europe, like woodworking, creative writing, dog training, you name it. If you live in the EU, you live in Germany, Sweden, Ireland, Greece, Spain, or any other EU country, and you dream of one day becoming a YouTuber, of starting a channel and growing a following, and one day doing that as a full-time job, well, I hate to say it, but under an Article 13 Europe, you will have no choice but to give up on that dream. It's quite curious to see how such a simple change as making the platform responsible instead of the creator can have. But you know what, this isn't all bad. Sure, it will destroy tens of thousands of jobs, in the long run do a great deal of damage to the European economy, and cause a major disruption to the way that hundreds of millions of people consume content online, and effectively kill many thriving communities. It's alright, because now Ed Sheeran's music label can earn 5% more money because some of YouTube's users have moved over to Spotify. That is the worst case scenario, and it's also the most likely scenario, and I imagine you might call BS on what I just said. I know I would. That's usually the response people give after hearing such bad news as this. But let me provide you with a little proof, a little evidence to show you this eventuality is so much more possible than you might like to think. On the 22nd of October this year, YouTube released a statement. The full post is in the description, but let me read an excerpt. This growing creative economy is at risk, as the EU Parliament voted on Article 13, copyright legislation that could drastically change the internet that you see today. Article 13, as written, threatens to shut down the ability of millions of people, from creators like you to everyday users, to upload content to platforms like YouTube, and it threatens to block users in the EU from viewing content that is already live on the channels of creators everywhere. This includes YouTube's incredible video library of educational content, such as language classes, physics tutorials, and other how-tos. They go on to say, Article 13 threatens hundreds of thousands of jobs, European creators, businesses, artists, and everyone they employ. They go on to say, the proposal could force platforms like YouTube to allow only content from a small number of large companies. You know the situation is dire when YouTube itself is saying these things, where the prediction that I just made that sounds like some crackpot theory, one that wouldn't be out of place in a George Orwell novel, is the exact same prediction YouTube has already given in an official statement to the public. I hate to get political, I really do, but this is not like climate change. It is not something we will start to see the effects of in several decades' time. We will most likely see this change happen within the next 2 years, if not sooner, when the individual countries start to implement it. In January, the EU will have their final vote on Article 13. If that vote passes, Article 13 will officially become law. And what I just said, that outcome where even people who upload innocent makeup tutorials and tech reviews, even they get banned in the EU, it will more than likely become reality. Now, there is a critical problem a lot of these kind of videos have. They speak all about the doom and gloom, but do not provide any hope. They don't provide the viewer with a tangible thing they can do to stop it. Now, what can you do to stop this from happening? There is one integral thing you can do, which has been proven time and time again to be the most effective way to spread a message. Talk about it. Talk about this with your friends and family. The reason Article 13 has gotten so far to the point that it is nearly about to officially become law is because so few people are even aware of it, and out of those who are aware, few have realised the terrible effects it will have on our community. If you want to, like this video and share a link of it with anyone you think might listen. But also, here is the number one thing you can do. If you are an influencer, if you are a YouTuber or a streamer or someone with a large amount of followers on Twitter or any platform whatsoever, even if that platform is only 100 subscribers, please make your own video and talk about this to your audience, because if you don't do that by January, it will be too late to do that. The more influencers who spread this message, the faster we can all learn about it, and the faster we, the social media community as a whole, can stop this law. Also, here's another thing you can do. In the description is a list of all European Parliament members who are on Twitter. There are tons of them. These are the people who will be voting on Article 13 come January. Please find every representative from your country on that list and politely tweet at them explaining why they should vote against Article 13. Voice your opinion and maybe link them this video so they can understand the true ramifications this law will have. In January, we will see the final vote. After then, Article 13 is set in stone, and whatever fate our community has will be sealed. Now, the rest is up to you. Now, Christmas is coming up. In the next month, we are all going to be doing a lot of online shopping as we buy presents for our friends and family. I have just bought a PS4. I didn't buy it for my family, I just bought it for myself as a little treat. But in these coming months, one thing you need to be hyper vigilant about is your online security, which is where we come to NordVPN, who I can happily thank for sponsoring today's video. You never know when some criminal out there is peering into your devices and is taking note of your bank details and personal messages, and you are especially vulnerable to having your information stolen when using a public Wi-Fi. So please, just as a general life rule, never use a public Wi-Fi unless you have a VPN. However, when it comes to protecting your information and ensuring privacy as you browse online, in my opinion, there is no better way to protect yourself than by using NordVPN. What NordVPN does is it uses military-grade encryption on your computer, phone and tablet, so all that information, all your banking details, private messages and search history, all of that is almost impossible for any prying eyes to see. Whether that be a criminal who's trying to steal your data, or maybe even your own government who wants to monitor everything you see. There are some internet providers out there that log everything you do, but when using NordVPN, the only person in the world who knows what you've been looking at is you. I have been using NordVPN for over 6 months myself, and I can happily say it puts my mind at ease because it's just that added layer of security on my devices, just that added layer of privacy that stops someone from screwing up my day and stealing my information. Right now, NordVPN is having a massive sale where you can get 75% off a 3-year plan, and if you click my link in the description, you'll get an extra month on top of that, totally for free. If you want to get a VPN, I highly recommend you do so now, because as someone who uses this service, I can say this is a very good deal. When in the store, please use the code The Closer Look to get an extra 3 months on top of your plan for no extra cost. Under this deal, it will cost you $2.99 per month, and well, when I compare that to having the prospect of having my bank details stolen or the peace of mind I have from knowing my information is safe and nobody can see it, well, to me, to get NordVPN, especially with a deal like this, is something I would do in a heartbeat. Again, please click that link in the description or use my code The Closer Look at the checkout for a 3 extra month on your plan. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time on The Closer Look.
Ja, der var dere. Riktig god søndag. Det er et elendig vær. Jeg har prøvd å spille litt mer deprimert enn det jeg egentlig er da, men det der artikkel 13 altså, det må vi bare bekjempe. Vi må bare bekjempe det. Det er ikke noe annet å gjøre enn det. Det er... Hva er det for noe, Gustav?
Den skal folk ut.
Det er helt grusomt. Ja, nå vet dere en del mer om artikkel 13 i alle fall. Og dere som ikke har sett gårsdagens kaffeblogg bør se den også, for der er det 3 forskjellige innslag om artikkel 13 som dere ikke har sett før da, hvis dere ikke har sett gårsdagens. Men dere vet, det skal helst handle om radio- og TV-historie her i kaffebloggen. Det er jo det vi er til for. Ikke så mye for politikken sin del. Religion, det er så lei av at jeg har ikke lyst til å tenke på det engang. Du vet, jeg har vært utsatt for Frelsesarmeen i min ungdom. Jeg ser jo på Frelsesarmeen som kanskje den verste av alle sektene. Altså, Frelsesarmeen er mye verre enn både Smiths venner, og den er verre enn Men den er verre enn Jehovas vitner også. Altså, Smiths venner og Jehovas vitner er småtterier i forhold til Frelsesarmeen, men han der jævelen der Hanevold, han er faktisk enda verre enn Frelsesarmeen, synes jeg, så det går an det også. Nei, skal vi ikke bare komme oss rett av gårde ut i Nordsjøen og se hvordan det gikk med Radio Caroline da? Det gikk rett og slett ikke så bra det.
The crew of the Radio Caroline pirate ship have been rescued as the boat threatened to capsize in stormy seas off Kent. The 6 were airlifted from the Ross Revenge after it ran aground on the Goodwin Sands near the East Goodwin lightship. They're recovering after being brought back to RAF Manston. The rescue helicopter had to hover close to a 100-foot mast as force 9 gales lashed the ship. The captain of the Ross Revenge radioed for help as the vessel drifted towards the Goodwins after losing its anchor. Tonight, the battle to save the Radio Caroline ship from breaking up. Good evening. Attempts are being made tonight to save the Radio Caroline ship, the Ross Revenge, which is in danger of breaking up off the Kent coast. The 1,000-ton trawler ran aground on the Goodwin Sands off Ramsgate last night. Since then, it's been battered by heavy seas. Early today, the crew of 6 were airlifted to safety. The RAF say they're lucky to be alive. David Forsdyke reports.
The 5 men and 1 woman crew from Radio Caroline. They were plucked in the nick of time from the decks of the converted trawler Ross Revenge, tonight still being pounded by seas off the East Kent coastline. The ship had been battered all night. The crew hadn't been aware that their anchor chain had been snapped. Around dawn, they realised that they'd been driven more than 15 miles south onto notorious sandbanks off Kent.
There was an enormous lurch. In fact, we were all thrown out of our beds and flung into the air. We realised immediately something was wrong. Got dressed, everybody was on the bridge in their life jackets within about 2 minutes. We called the Coast Guard and they informed us that we had actually run aground on the Goodwin Sands.
The survivors had stayed on board as long as possible to try to save the ship. Back on dry land, they had no illusions about how lucky they'd been.
We were basically praying for our lives because we knew that within a few minutes the whole thing would go into the water and basically we'd all be dead. We were very lucky the RAF showed up when they did.
Yes, I was going to say, if they'd come, say, a couple of minutes later, then we might not be here today.
The seas around the Ross Revenge were so rough that the Ramsgate lifeboat and its 7-man crew were thrown onto the sandbanks themselves as they attempted to take off the Caroline's crew. A major problem for the RAF rescue team was the huge mast on Caroline. As water poured into cabins and the ship began to roll, the aerials sliced through the air around the rescue helicopter.
And from our point of view upstairs, the boat rocking as it was doing on its beam with the 150-foot masts, it makes life a little bit tricky.
Caroline stopped transmitting in April after the 1990 Broadcasting Act, which threatened to jail anybody who worked for them. It was trying to become a legitimate satellite broadcaster. Those on board until this morning were caretakers waiting for the big break. Staff say the loss of the Revenge won't hamper their long-term plans. They say Caroline will be back. David Forsdyke, Coast to Coast, RAF Manston.
A salvage team's made an unsuccessful bid to free Radio Caroline from the Goodwin Sands. A tug has managed to secure a line to the 1,000-ton Ross Revenge, and another attempt will be made tonight. But now there's controversy over allegations that the salvage workers on board repelled a team from Radio Caroline who tried to regain control of the ship by boarding her from an inflatable dinghy. David Forsdyke reports.
Salvage workers aboard the Radio Caroline ship Ross Revenge today. Floundering on the Goodwins, the 1,000-ton ship ballasted with 200 tons of concrete to keep her steady at sea, she proved an impossible task. Still stuck and beached by one of the highest tides of the season. But as the salvage team worked with Dover lifeboat crews to secure lines, Caroline staff tried to regain possession of the Revenge. They hired this trawler to take them to the stranded ship. The Ramsgate skipper is an old friend.
I've been involved with Caroline quite a few years. It was to, try and get something back, because, well, we were stuck there on the sandbar and it was the first reasonable weather after the blow.
Caroline's representative, Peter Murtha, now alleges that his bid to board his old ship was halted by salvors who threw a length of chain at him as he approached.
I'd gone out there at least to talk to somebody and certainly to try to get on board, and I didn't imagine that he would use it. I mean, it's a heavy lump of chain and obviously it could have caused injury. The next thing I knew, he'd thrown it at me.
Tonight, Dover Harbour Board deny the allegation that members of the tug crew on board the Ross Revenge used force to prevent the man from attempting to board the vessel, or that they threatened him with chains.
Our engineer independently decided to go out to see if he could assist on the salvage. But of course, legally, the vessel is in control of Dover Harbour Board at the moment, and it wasn't possible for him to go on board.
Possession of a stranded ship is a grey area. Salvage can depend on occupation and who has lines aboard. The part of the Dover lifeboat playing in helping to tie cables to the ship has met with surprise.
We saw the ropes being taken on board from one of the small lifeboats, the inflatable.
What's your impression of the RNLI's involvement?
Well, I think if it was up to the salvors, it's their job to obviously secure a rope to the ship, but not for the RNL to probably get involved.
Salvors will try around midnight tonight to attempt once again to free the Ross Revenge, leaving the argument over ownership until later. David Forsdyke, Coast to Coast, the Goodwin Sands.
A salvage team has made an unsuccessful bid to free the Radio Caroline ship from the Goodwin Sands. Another attempt will be made tonight. Meanwhile, there's a row over salvage rights for the Ross Revenge. A third attempt to rescue the stranded Radio Caroline ship has proved successful. The Ross Revenge had been grounded on the Goodwin Sands off the Kent coast for 2 days. Salvage crews pulled the boat from the sandbank on this morning's high tide, and 2 tugs are now taking it.
The Radio Caroline ship Ross Revenge is at Dover docks after being successfully salvaged from a sandbank. The vessel was recovered at the third attempt after being grounded on the Goodwin Sands off the Kent coast for 2 days. Salvage crews pulled the boat from the sandbank on this morning's high tide, and 2 tugs towed it to Dover. The Radio Caroline crew are negotiating with Dover Harbour Board over salvage rights.
Cost tens of thousands of pounds. Now the station manager wants to market the vessel as a tourist attraction to raise money.
She's a very famous radio station, very famous ship, and I think she'll make, in the short to medium term, quite a good publicity boost for the town of Dover.
The long-term plan is to get the Ross Revenge back out to sea and regain the broadcasting rights the station lost last year. Until then, its fans will have to do with watching rather than listening. Richard Brock, TVS News, Dover.
Hi, this is Robin Campbell from UB40. You're listening to Radio Caroline, 558 AM.
Well, I'd just like to say welcome back to Caroline. We are here to stay, and don't you forget it.
Whilst I do have this opportunity, I'd like to say a very big thank you to all those many people out there that have helped us during our recent difficulties, and just to let you know that it is very, very much appreciated by all of us out here.
3 decades of great music for Europe. This is Radio Caroline. Listening to Caroline 819, something now from John Waite's new band, Bad English.
But don't you agree, Peter, that I think to some extent you've paid your disc jockeys a slight disservice tonight by saying they couldn't recreate the Caroline thing on land? I think the last 2 weeks has proved that they can. And, I think to take this, the magic of Caroline must come from a ship to extremes is a bit unfair on the disc jockeys.
Well, fair or unfair, all I can say is that when Radio Caroline was on the air from the boat, I used to have it on all the time and used to enjoy listening to it. I've listened to the satellite programs for probably less than 1 hour altogether.
576. The legend lives on. This is Europe's musical heartbeat, Radio Caroline. 576. Caroline.
94.9 FM, 14:58 AM. This is the BBC station for London, Greater London Radio. It's exactly 9 o'clock.
6 people have been rescued from the former Radio Caroline ship, the Ross Revenge, which ran aground in heavy seas off Ramsgate. Peter Hunt reports.
The ship, the Ross Revenge, got into trouble at about 4 o'clock this morning. The 6 people on board the vessel, which is the home of the former pirate radio station, Radio Caroline, realised they were touching the bottom. An RAF rescue helicopter went to the scene, but the crew at first wanted to remain on board while it was towed to safety. But then it began to keel over on its side, and the 6 people were winched off.
A second attempt to refloat the former Radio Caroline ship will be made this morning. The Ross Revenge was washed up on a sandbank off Ramsgate early yesterday. A tug from Dover will try to get a line aboard at the next high tide at about 10 o'clock.
Na 8 jaar op zee te hebben gelegen wordt de Ross Revenge op 22 november de haven van Dover binnengesleept. De scheepvaartinspectie bevindt het schip niet zeewaardig. En zolang de bergingskosten niet worden betaald, blijft het schip aan de ketting liggen.
Radio Caroline, loving awareness. Radio Caroline, love and good music. Radio Caroline. Love and good music. Radio Caroline. Radio Caroline. Caroline. 319 Caroline. All the hits of Caroline. The station we love. Love and good music. Radio Caroline. Caroline 319. Loving awareness. Caroline. Radio Caroline. Loving awareness. Caroline. Radio Caroline. Gonna make you feel so fine. Radio Caroline. Caroline. Radio Caroline. Loving awareness. Caroline. Good morning on Caroline. 319. Radio Caroline. Caroline on 319. The sound of the nation. Radio Caroline.
Ladies and gentlemen, more disco radio action from Radio Caroline.
You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you find that you do get what you need. If you listen to Radio Caroline, if you have been listening to Radio Caroline for the last 28 years, I think you will find that most of the time you have got just what you needed. And what people need is good music. The time is fast approaching 12 midday on this Easter Sunday. On 101.8, this is Radio Caroline from Dover. 2 minutes past 12 midday on this Easter Sunday. This is, of course, Radio Caroline on 101.8, coming to you live from the MV Ross Revenge, anchored here in the Granville Docks in Dover. We're 28 years old. A large multitude is rapidly assembling in the studio, and a bottle of wine, not wine, champagne, I should say. I always hate this bit, where you never know where the cork is going to end up. Is it going to go anywhere? Oh, yes, there we go.
Happy birthday, Caroline.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Paul Ryder there doing the honours. A man who always knows exactly what to do with a bottle.
Your station, Caroline.
Broadcasting again for the first time in more than 2 years. The station was closed after a raid at sea, but now the former pirate station is broadcasting once again from Dover, this time with a temporary licence. Radio station Radio Caroline says it's trapped in Dover Harbour because of government red tape. The operators want to move their ship, the Ross Revenge, to Chatham, but the Department of Transport won't let them. Philip Hornby explains.
This is Radio Caroline, testing on 101.4.
Caroline's back on the air, and it's legit, broadcasting to the Medway towns thanks to a temporary licence from the Radio Authority. But they're having to do it from Dover, beaming a signal that travels from the ship via Dover Castle, Brighton, Portsmouth, London and Maidstone. How much simpler it would be, they say, to tow the ship to the Medway and broadcast direct. Cheaper too. They pay Dover Harbour Board £1,000 a month just to stay here. Indeed, they had a temporary site lined up in this dry dock at Chatham's historic dockyard, but the Department of Transport say they can't go anywhere.
one suspects that they might be getting their own back for all the years that we sat out there, and they may have felt that we were sticking two fingers up to them or something. I don't know.
That's just not true, say the government. The ship needs a special safety certificate before it can be moved, a certificate that can only be granted by the country of its registration. And the problem is, where is the Ross Revenge registered?
A foreign registered ship must get permission from the flag state, and an English ship gets permission from the Department of Transport. We believe we're now an English ship. The Department of Transport are being ambivalent. They're not saying one thing or the other.
We've had correspondence with people in Switzerland who say that they have a mortgage on the vessel.
So you're not convinced that it is an English ship?
We are not convinced that it's a UK or a British ship.
And so it's stalemate. But as the row goes on, the music goes on. Caroline broadcasting to Kent for the next 2 weeks and broadcasting across Europe on the Astra satellite. This is where they want to eventually end up, on the Medway. But not for the first time. Radio Caroline's ambitions are being thwarted by government officials. Philip Hornby, Coast to Coast.
This is a story of man's fight for freedom. The beginning is in the past, the middle is now, the end is in the future. It is a story of sadness and of triumph. August the 14th, as disc jockeys Robbie Dale, Johnny Walker and Ross Brown leave Liverpool Street, London. Spurred on toward the sea by the hundreds of cheering people. See them now as they stand on the tender. There are tears in their eyes as their families, their homes, and their loved ones are left behind. 3 o'clock on this Monday afternoon, and on 266, Big Lil is heard for the last time. Caroline is alone. These three men prepare for midnight. For in a few hours' time, they are to challenge the might and the power of the British government. They will become criminals. Midnight approaches. It is August the 15th. Johnny Walker announces that Caroline belongs to you, that she loves you and she will continue. The Beatles sing All You Need Is Love. These two men sound happy, but underneath they are sad, for they now know that they have passed the point of no return. They are not sad for long. They are joined by other men who also gave up so much to fight for freedom. The seas are rough and cruel, life is hard, but as each day passes, the moment of triumph draws nearer. The British people rally round. They send food, they send comfort, and they send their love. All you need is love, and love overcomes. The British government relents. Caroline raises her anchor and heads for England. See her now majestically and proudly sailing up the river toward the capital that has welcomed so many victors in British history. But none as victorious as these men. They stand on the deck waving to the millions of people who line the Thames. This time the tears flooding from their eyes are tears of happiness. The insurmountable odds have been surmounted. They reunite with their families, with their friends, with their loved ones. We are near the end of our story. London's skyline has a new landmark pointed toward the heavens. Caroline's Ariel. At last beaming out its love and music to a free and peaceful nation. We have overcome. The battle is over. Free radio becomes a way of life, but never taken for granted. For no man will ever forget Monday, August the 14th, 1967.
Ja, kjære venner av kaffebloggen. Nå må dere protestere. Ta kontakt med politikere, ta kontakt med stortingsrepresentanter, journalister, Dagsnytt 18 ikke minst. For vi må forhindre at det 12. september 2018 blir en like stor merkedag i, skal vi si, kampen for ytringsfrihetsnederlag. For hvis denne artikkel 13 virkelig blir implementert, så kan du bare glemme Facebook. Du kan glemme YouTube. Du kan glemme Twitter. Du kan glemme Instagram. Kanskje ikke direktivet blir implementert i Norge. Han sa jo det, han i dag, i den litt lange videoen vi så før Radio Caroline, at Norge ikke var et av de landene hvor det automatisk blir implementert. Men Norge er for jævlige til å implementere alle regler som er mot ytringsfrihet, så jeg er redd for at det kommer til å bli tatt i bruk i Norge også. Nei, vi må bekjempe med alle midler denne her artikkel 13. Ja, det har sluttet å regne nå, så det er vel gjerne håp for en litt bedre dag. Jeg skal ut på trappen og ta et lite bilde. Veldig bra så den ikke ut. Så hør på den ulyden der da. Kjerkeklokker. Jeg forstår ikke at det er lov. Altså, det er bra, vel og bra at det er forbudt med muslimske bønnerop. Men hva for all verden skal vi bli plagte med innkalling til en sexperverse person som lever i sølibat og driver og misbruker små barn? Katolske kjerker? Nei takk. Katolske kjerker? Nei takk. Ekte EU-direktiv 13? Nei takk. EU-direktiv 13? Nei, takk.
So the first thing that I want to talk about is Article 13. Okay, so what's happening in the European Union at the moment is that the European Union is trying to do their best to help with copyright law, to make sure that people's copyrights is not infringed, which is a great thing. That's something that we're all hoping for. Everyone that's creating content doesn't want their content copied, all right? But the problem is that right now, YouTube, the way that it's designed is that YouTube, under the Article 13 legislation, would be liable for everything that's being uploaded. So if there's a copyright breach within the European Union, then YouTube would be liable for that, and not the guy who's doing the copyright infringement. And YouTube has gone out and said that if this goes into law, what we're going to do is we're going to stop creators from uploading content from within the European Union to make sure that we comply with the law, basically. And specifically, that's channels that are using clips from, for example, news organizations, and I do that. You know, if there's a big news article about a specific aircraft accident or incident that's happening, I'm going to do that. And I also use some segments from other YouTubers, which I then put a description, you know, a credit in the description of the video, making sure that, you know, you guys, after you've seen the video, you can go in and you can check it out and you can see the full-length video. There are normally some fantastic creators out there that I feature, but if this legislation goes through, that will not be allowed anymore. And what will happen is that channels like mine and other similar channels within the European Union is just going to get shut down. So it's really, really important, guys, that you, A, get the Mentor Aviation app, because if this happens to YouTube, then the only way that I'll be able to create content is by uploading it through my own app and then making sure that you guys get those videos anyway. And also that you lobby, that you contact whoever is in government in your country and tell them that you think that this is horrible. I have a link here in the description as well to the Save My Internet campaign that YouTube and other giants are doing. Of course, this is not, you know, they're not doing this because they love content creating. They're doing this because they want to save their business model. But still, it's worth to lobby. It's worth to push that you guys want to make sure that channels like mine continue to exist. So do that.
Ja, nå jo kirketida over. Jeg vet ikke om de var i kirka og prøvde å flytte Ingstad med bønn. Vet du hva det vil si å ta en hellige Ingstad? Å ta en hellige Ingstad? Betydningen av det uttrykket, det kommer i morgen. Ha en riktig, riktig god søndag.
Bollestad.
Nei takk.
Bollestad.
Nei takk.
Hej kära publik, hjärtligt välkomna. Vi ska kora skönhetsdrottningen mitt framför era ögon. Vilken härlig publik ni är! Flickorna! Får jag lov att presentera vinnaren? Om du skulle få bestämma i världen, vad menar du skulle vara annorlunda då?
Jeg synes det er innmari dumt med krig og fred og religion og politikk og sånn. Og så synes jeg det er innmari viktig at skjønnheten kommer innenfra.
Kaffebloggen i HD og uten lydsensur finner du på YouTube.
If you don't have any art, you're pretty much lost.